Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is a Smart Brain Insight podcast, and today I have another special guest from our partners, Neuro-Link in South Africa, no other than André Vermeulen Jr., another neuroscientist who happens to be also the the Chief Marketing Officer of Neuro-Link. They cannot have too many CEOs. They only can have one, and that's the father. And André, are you around there so you can join me on screen? I almost promoted you. Did you notice
Hi,
that?
Edith. Thank you so much for having me. Say again,
Yes.
Edith.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay.
I've got you. I've got you perfectly fine. Are you hearing me fine? I heard you gave me this beautiful introduction. So I'm hoping that you can pick up on me speaking to you as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, our first lesson of the day, junior, it spells in South Africa different from the States. In the States, we use GR, and I noticed you had GNR. Thank you for teaching that. We learn a little bit of everything in our podcast here. So that's a good lesson to learn today. And in that regard, you had done probably a lot of things, and especially learning about the neuroscience of learning, and you help mostly our practitioners in Neuro-Link for us to really have the applications and the science behind the instruments that we use. And I would like to have a conversation on the next 3 episodes a little bit about those things. And today we probably want to focus on one of those 3 things that we have in NeuroAgility. We already established in previous episodes that NeuroAgility is the ability to acquire information, in other words, learning with ease, speed, and flexibility so we can be flexible, be fast, and be focused. And today I would like to focus more on the flexibility part. And in your work with Neuro-Link, tell us more about how we arrive at that flexibility. I would like to, and please take your time, be as big as possible, because this is a fascinating piece that we bring to our audience.
Sure, Edith. I think you being a partner with us, you probably know this inside out. But for those that aren't familiar with the concept, something like my neuroflexibility can sometimes sound a bit intimidating, and it's really not. It's actually just the interplay between both of your brain hemispheres firing simultaneously. Remember, when I say simultaneously, working together and not alternating between thought processes or processes. If I can give you just a simple example, think of somebody that's a high-functioning multitasker, but with like extremely delicate projects and time-sensitive projects, or the responsibility is quite big. Somebody that can operate at that level tends to be neuroflexible. Now, all that means is that person taps into being analytical and creative, being detail-orientated and holistic. So it's not about, we know that you've got one hemispheric preference. When we're under pressure, you've got your hemispheric dominant or preference that takes the leading role, and your non-dominant hemisphere takes a more passive role when it comes to processing of information. Now, when we talk about flexibility, we don't want one or the other, we want one and the other. And that's why flexibility is so vitally important for us to focus on. And it is one of those things that people they feel a bit intimidated about. It's like it's these big words that are coming out: my neuroflexibility, my neuro-agility. What does this all mean? It's just the interplay between both brain hemispheres firing simultaneously to make your processes work better.
Fantastic. I really, I'm really fascinated by this work, because I remember 15 years ago when I first came across your father, André Sr. I remember the assessment that we do today called Neuro-Agility Profile used to be called the Learning Receptiveness Profile. Remember those days? You were probably too young for that or not. And
Yeah, I remember the old LOPs.
yes, well, you guys grew up on neuroscience. And one thing that I admire about the Vermeulen family, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit because it's important that people get to know our relationship, and also something that is proven to work. And I normally say when you want to adopt any type of programs, it's all in the execution. It's all in the integrity of, you want to be more flexible, then start practicing that and doing the things that you need to do to become more flexible. Obviously, you want to be a great athlete, just like Jordan says, it's not necessarily the skill, it's the practice of it that keeps him being a winner. And the idea here is, when you, it's just a curiosity I have. I'm going to ask forgiveness later, but for now, I'm just going to commit sin, and I'm going to go into your upbringing. And I would love to hear, because I'm fascinated with you and your brother and your sisters and the other brother who's not in the Neuro-Link active. It's a brilliant mind. And how was growing up with your father, and what are the things that you guys practice? So, because all of you are so flexible in your cognitive skills. I mean, you do marketing and you do operations and you do this and you do sports and and just like, how can you be so good on so many things at the same time? It's a very impressive thing. And I want to use your testimony a little bit so people can understand really what flexibility is about, other than the science piece.
Edith, and it's such a brilliant question. Mm-hmm. And thank you. You compliment our family so much. It's it's very, very flattering, and thank you so much for that. I never used to be flexible. I am sort of the epitome of a child that was a klutz. If there is a hose pipe on the ground, I would trip over it. I would knock my head. I used to be super clumsy. And when growing up in a house that's aware of the subject is vitally important. And that's what made all the changes for me personally. My mom and my dad started implementing cross-lateral movement exercises in my day-to-day routine. We would sit, we would do these. If you know any cross-lateral movement exercises, clap.
Let's do it.
Your left hand on the nose, your right hand on your left ear. Let's do it. Okay, clap. Left hand on the ear, right hand on the nose. Great. So you are already, that looks like muscle memory to me, Edith. So I think we're going to need to zhuzh up the exercises for you a bit. So, but those simple type of exercises made a massive, massive impact for me. I was, like I said, the proverbial klutz in the family. I mean, I still bear the scars on the forehead. Of just being completely not integrated. And my parents, they made an active decision to say, okay, right, we've got this boy that's struggling with, it wasn't just balance, but it was just overall non-integration. And starting with simple exercises got me to a point where I went from a state of homolaterality to bilaterality. Now, there was still a lot of work to do, and the great thing is the younger you catch this, the quicker it is for you to adapt. Knowing neuroplasticity so well would know that the younger you start with these things, the better it is for permanent reinforcement. And my parents really exposed us to a lot of different things. So sports from a very young age, being able to do exercises like martial arts we were exposed to from the age of 4. That helped me personally, and it gave me a lot of confidence as well. And from there, it was, I don't want to just hammer on the exercises that they did and the discussions that we had, but that was so vitally important. Just having discussions with me and saying, my boy, we understand that things are maybe a bit difficult for you at the moment to do X, Y, and Z, but these are the things that we are going to do to enable you to get from point A to point B. It's going to be a gradual process, but let's do these exercises. And they physically did these exercises with me. My mom did the doodles with me. My dad would go outside with me and say, let's go throw some ball. Like simple, small activities like that. Exercises engage both brain hemispheres. And it got me to a point where, wow, these exercises are amazing. These exercises are fun. I'm actually enjoying it. Then you start getting your friends together. Can you do this? Can you do that? And it had such a big influence. And when it came to studying, now I've got the ideal teacher's pet profile. I'm left hemisphere dominant, or I've got a left hemisphere preference. Right eye, right ear, right hand. So school for me was an absolute breeze. It was, and I'm an auditory learner. So school was a breeze. I didn't have to study. My parents always came into the room and asked me, like, aren't you going to study? You're going to fail this test. You have to study. No, Mom, I listened to what the teacher said in class. Now, that can only take you so far. But because I've been integrated and my parents have exposed me to different stimuli, we've been able to, or I was able to sort of coax the system to work, to make it work for me. And my preferences became, or my competence became my preferences. So that's the gist of it. Sorry, it's a bit much, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah, that is fantastic, Andre, because one thing is for us to talk about this science, but for me, my conversations with you, when I looked at you, I looked at the application of things. I looked at how things can work, right? Because you played rugby, you did martial arts, you can do marketing, you can do this. It's just so roundabout, right? Not just the academic part. One thing that I am curious about, now you're a father. Did you do the same things with your son?
So that is such a brilliant question, Edith, and it is something that's very near to my heart because my son idles at 120 miles an hour. He's got one speed and it's go, 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 go. And my son he was born premature. He was a NICU baby, a NICU baby, oxygen deprived when he was born. So we had some challenges. But we did that from the time he was born, changing diapers. We had him on the diaper rack, doing these cross-lateral movement exercises. By the time that he started crawling, we helped with the manual cross-lateral exercises. And it made such a phenomenal impact on my child's development. He just turned 3 in November, and he's excelled in school. He's learning 3 languages simultaneously. He's learning how to read and write in German. He is, at this stage, I'm very proud. I know I sound like I'm boasting just a little bit, but it's all to do with integrating what we've learned when we were younger. So, and we've been in this business now for a decade, and you just get stuck into the motion of things. But there's no harder reality check than applying this in your own household. It's all good and well. You stand on the stadium or on the stage, and you say you have to do X, Y, and Z. But when you go home, do you actually do it? Do you actually apply these things? And I can tell you, if it wasn't for the things that I grew up with and the neuroscience behind what we do, it might have been a completely different story for my son. And we've seen the benefits of this in practice. So we haven't had any issues. There is no developmental hindrances because we caught on to things early and because we were made aware of certain things early, we could implement this from day one. So it really is such a privilege, and I think it is necessary for everybody to be aware of this and to know that it's not logical and or creative. It's logical and creative. It's not expressive or receptive. It's expressive and receptive. That's where that flexibility comes in.
Fantastic. You know, it's interesting that I was leading towards that question without knowing the story, because as much as I knew the family, I did not know, and I knew your boy was born premature, but I did not know that you were doing those cross-lateral movement when he was a baby, you know, manually speaking, and that's fascinating. Just give me another application of this, and truly, you know, neuroplasticity is something that is so fascinating, how we can really, really work in our brains to achieve so much. Now, there's two questions that are very vibrant in my head before we can complete this particular episode. And one of them has to do with, you know, when a person wants to think about how I can be more flexible, and I hope that people do understand, André Jr., that's not it's not a luxury anymore. It's not a nice to have. Maybe when you were growing up, it was a more nice to have, but for today's world, no matter what age, being cognitive flexible is a must, right? We're facing disruption, and people will say, here we go again, the disruption, the this, the that, the artificial intelligence, and there's so much noise out there. But there's some fundamentals that we have to have, right, in order to face that world. And if you don't want to hear the noise, don't hear the noise, but be prepared for the noise. And the reality is that we're living times, well, first of all, we're in the age of intelligence, but it's not about being more intelligent, it's about having more flexibility.
Yeah.
So you know where to find information. So you can pivot in times of changes. So you can be resilient in times of high demand or stress, that you can rebound from upsets and then look for the opportunity and seize opportunity where other people see chaos. This idea is what cognitive flexibility is going to give us. We just getting prepared for a world that has more cognitive demand than years back. Actually, I share with you, I started watching the series, and maybe I'm late, maybe a lot of people already watch it, but I never had the time. I don't watch that much TV, and I'm very selective when I do. And I'm watching the series of Einstein and the life of Einstein and all the challenges that he faced. And I'm at the beginning, so I have a lot to watch still. But one of the things that I realized, I realized how they had to build their own tools for their own experiments, because they didn't have the developments that we have today, right? That you can send to a company, oh, can you build me this, and that? Because sometimes it was so rustic and so primitive the way they had to go about doing their own experiments. And I was telling my partner, Donald, I said, Donald, did you realize how these people had to cope with this, having to create things for the first time that for today's world is obsolete? And by the way, if they still exist, we take it for granted. Now, that's not longer our demand in the hands-on activities as much as it is the cognitive demand. You know, the ability to have collective intelligence that includes that artificial intelligence and machine generated and all of those things. Now, when we're talking about this idea of yours, that we're talking, I mean, that I'm interviewing you about cognitive flexibility, what is your most profound advice that you can give to people who are coaching others and who are helping others achieve cognitive flexibility? So how they can go about helping people achieve cognitive flexibility? That's probably the bottom question. How can we help them?
Sure. That's absolutely fun. That's a brilliant question, Edith, because it's something that we get asked so often is, where do I start? And the simple answer is just start by doing something. So whether it be a simple cross-lateral movement exercise, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take time for it to become part of your coachees or your the candidate that you're coaching, for them to make this part of their life. And it doesn't help you throw all of this on them at one shot and you expect them to be cognitive, to have cognitive flexibility. You need to do it step for step. So I would say start with something small. Start with cross-lateral movement exercises. If you are, and you know, I'm thinking about it, this is actually, we should start right at the beginning. Do an assessment, and you can't improve what you do not know about yourself, or you can't improve what you can't measure. So find out, am I left or right brain hemisphere? Do I have a left or right brain hemisphere preference? Am I expressive or receptive? Am I an emotional feeler or a rational thinker? What does my information processing style look like? So the main thing is become aware of what your blind spots may be, or what your processing looks like. So awareness is the number one starting point, and then put it into action. So awareness and action, but it needs to be palatable action. You can't just info dump somebody and tell them, there you go, this is what you need to do. You need to incorporate it from day one. It's not going to work. You need to start small. Once it begins to form part of their day-to-day routine, then you move on to the next part. It's like that saying that we have: how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
So it's a process. It's not a quick fix. Exactly.
Yes, fantastic.
So that would be my. That's what I always tell people, especially parents.
Yes. So that was my first question, and my last question, because we are almost at the end of the time for our episode, is if we really want to help someone move forward, one of the tools that we have is this NeuroAgility profile, and people are more than welcome to visit the Smart Brain Insights, contact us, leave us a message, or just send a private message, an email, whatever you want, but let us know that you're interested in learning more. The idea here is that you need to know where you are so you can start your journey towards that cognitive flexibility that is desirable for us to face the challenges that we have in life. And we even can help students, and we can help teenagers, at least. If you're 12 years of older, we can help you. And if you have a brain, and I hope that you do have a brain, so we can help you as well. And if you don't have a brain, please don't call us. But if you have a brain, we're here to help you. And the idea here is now, how are we? Yes, isn't it the truth, right? Sometimes I need two brains. That's why you see the brain on the side, because, sometimes you need two brains.
Brilliant.
I always say that. Yeah. But the idea is how, and I've been saying the idea here is to make a call for people who are coaching, being therapists, being educators. We just need to create this tribe of people that is helping the generations and ourselves who are facing this so-called age of intelligence to be more cognitive flexible. And I would like to hear from you, how do we help people help others?
Yeah, I think I love that, Edith. How do we help people to help others? Once again, like I said, awareness, right, we've got that out of the way. And then it needs to be actionable change, right? That's the second step. How do you help somebody that whether you're a teacher, a coach, or a psychologist, a therapist, you need to be aware of the person that is sitting across from you. Remember, with the age, the one thing that's quite frustrating is with the age of technology that we are in, artificial intelligence taking, almost taking over, people have become quite lazy and disconnected. It's to connect to that person. Remember, we are in the people business. We use neuroscience as our point of departure because we believe everything starts with the brain. But we are in the people business. You have to have a heart for somebody that's sitting across from you. That is honestly what I would say. If you're in this to try and gain something, you're going to find it quite tough. People are difficult beings, but if you need to be in that space where you'd actually like to help somebody, and that's what I truly believe. If you're in the people business, be invested in that person. Make sure that you utilize the tools that you have available. And that could be either an assessment, it could be a coaching program that you run yourself, it could be your training and development programs that you have. It's up to your coaches to decide which tools they use. But we, from a neuroscience perspective, we use the brain as the baseline for everything that we do. So we always start our practice with an assessment, and then it's to engage. You journey with that person. It's not just a once off and done. You journey with that person. I've got clients that I speak to on almost a weekly basis just to have catch-ups. They ask me how I am, I ask them how they are, but we are invested in each other, and that is the main thing. Personally, I think that would be the main point of departure.
Fantastic.
I'm interested, Edith. What would you say?
I would like to say that the first thing is to recognize that you, like we always say, and it's a principle of quality. You cannot improve what you don't measure. So knowing where you need to start, and having that, I agree with you, having that self-awareness, understanding that coaches have coaches and sometimes have more than one coaches. We're needing each other, and it's in that connection that the more tools your coaches will have, the better it's going to be. Now, if you are a coach, if you are already a practitioner of any sort in people development, then we're there for you. If you're in the business of neuroplasticity, and neuroplasticity touches almost everything. In our group of practitioners, we have people who are therapists, we have people who are life coaches, we have performance coaches, we have sports coaches, we have all sorts of, we have talent developing people, we have trainers, educators, you name it. As long as you're working with expanding the mind or helping somebody perform, we're there for you. And knowing where you start and understanding how the person is acquiring and processing the information is the baseline. We can't not really help someone if we do not understand how the person thinks, how they learn. And that's probably our topic for our next session. How about that? For now, we just have to say goodbye and thank you for being with us.